Intel is in early talks to add AMD as a potential Foundry customer, Semaphore reported on Wednesday. That's great news for Intel stock investors. I'm going to go over the details of that announcement and what it could mean for Intel stock investors and my rating on Intel stock, whether it's a buy, hold, or sell right now.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So Intel is in early talks to add AMD as a Foundry customer. AMD didn't immediately respond to a request for comment, and Intel declined to comment. But there were reports in April from Reuters that AMD was evaluating Intel's manufacturing technology. Of course, Intel has invested aggressively in building out its manufacturing capabilities, both enhancing its technology and expanding the availability of technology, the availability of manufacturing capacity to be able to service outside customers in addition to its own needs to manufacture the chips that Intel brands and designs itself, but also to manufacture chips that are designed by AMD or NVIDIA or others. It wants to become both a foundry for manufacturing semiconductor chips and also a brand designing and manufacturing its own chips. The company has invested tens of billions of dollars in the foundry segment, and investors have felt those investments were too much. It has yet to deliver good returns on those investments. It hasn't highlighted a big customer or a big increase in revenue in that segment. And so these signs that NVIDIA and AMD are evaluating and considering is great news for Intel stock investors. The share price jumped 7%, more than 7% on the back of that news. And of course, I'm happy about that. I've had Intel stock rated as a buy all year long here in 2025. So I'm happy to see the stock performing well and performing in line with other semiconductor companies that have performed really well during this AI boom. Intel was one of the laggards up until this year. Up until recent weeks, it's getting some notoriety and some attention, and it's getting some interest from investors, and that's been great news. So I calculated an intrinsic value per share for Intel at $29.45. The current market price is $36. Now, that's likely an understatement of its intrinsic value per share, as these recent deals are, I don't think, completely reflected in the current intrinsic value per share. And in fact, for the AMD deal, I know for sure it's not reflected because I haven't done anything to update my free cash flow expectations based on this news today because there isn't enough detail. It's just, news that they are considering and evaluating, but we haven't heard any of the details. When it becomes a deal, when there's actual numbers attached, then I can go ahead and reflect that in my cash flow valuation to reflect the increase in free cash flow as a result of that new huge customer for its foundry segment. But as of yet, it's not reflected. So think of that as an upside to this intrinsic value per share. It's likely to increase as a result of this news. The magnitude of the increase is uncertain. Of course, I will update you as soon as I get more details. I'll update my valuation here and reflect that in the new recommendation. I reiterated my buy rating for Intel stock. I like the direction. I like that they're inking deals and U.S. manufacturing is becoming that much more important because the current administration is really going after companies that are not manufacturing in the United States. So Intel's U.S. manufacturing assets are more highly demanded right now, even if competitively it's not as attractive as Taiwan Semiconductor is. It's still gaining interest from designers and outsourcing companies because it has US-based assets and they need US-based manufacturing. So Intel is getting a look from these companies that neglected Intel for many, many years. Hey everyone, so many of you have been asking about my investing strategy, and I'm excited to announce that I've written a book that's available for sale now that describes my 6-step investing framework for evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.